What's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, and welcome back to another episode of Sports Beast. Today, we're getting back to the roots of Sports Beast and the roots of Ballers on a Budget. We're doing some predicting. We have strayed away from it from a little while, doing live casts and trying to figure out some other stuff we can be doing. But we are bringing it back, and at least I want to bring it back a lot more. I have Cody with us. I know I didn't mention he's on the other side of the screen here.
Yeet.
We are going to be predicting the standings of each division. Now, in this video, we're only going to be covering the North, both AFC and NFC. We'll take care of those, and then we'll just be knocking them off by division every other video. So I wanted to start with the NFC North. The NFC North, when I think of the NFC, I think dominance from Aaron Rodgers. How much crap I give Kirk Cousins and then for him to look completely different at the end of the season. Aaron Jones, how well he did with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback might be a little bit different this year from all aspects. So I'm going to give you my bottom two. Cody's going to give you his bottom two, aka the 3 and 4 spots, positions, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to go to the top two. Sound good?
It's good to me.
So at number 4, and I don't know if we haven't talked about who we have where. But for me, it's got to be Green Bay. Got to be Green Bay at number 4 here. They got a bunch of new players to put their faith into. And by new, yeah, Jordan Love's not new, but he's the new starter. They don't have a clear number 1 receiver yet. What's his name? Christian Watson, I believe is his name. Been on the team for a few years. He was a decent third receiver when Devontae Adams was on the team, but now they just have a whole lot more to figure out. Rookie tight end, and looking at their schedule, I'm seeing a pretty rough start, maybe 2 or 3 wins out of their first 8 or 9 games. So a lot to get figured out, a lot to prove. And with that rough of a start, I just don't think you're going to do well in this division.
Yeah, I agree. I have to go with this one with you. I have to put them at number 4.
No, I completely agree.
You already mentioned in the second round, they took tight end Luke Musgrave. They also secured their third wide receiver with Jalen Reed. But you already mentioned Jordan Love's the new captain of the squad. The running backs are already shirred up, but that's about it. Their defense was middle of the pack last year. I don't expect them to improve. They had 8 wins last year. Not looking good. Their schedule looks a little rough.
Yeah, that's 8 wins with a pretty good quarterback. I'm not going to say dominant because he couldn't get you past the first rounds of the playoffs, but
yeah,
with Aaron Rodgers, let's just say with Aaron Rodgers, and now that it's a whole new team, you might as well just start it from scratch on that one.
Yeah, and we all know how well he's not a rookie anymore. But if you're not starting your rookie game 1, he's not too special anyways. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in Jordan Love.
I'm excited to see what happens. Next up at the number 3 spot, my number 3 spot, we got Chicago. Now, there's a ton of faith in this team from players around the league for some reason this year. They signed a bunch of new people. They have ex-Panthers running back, how do you say his name? Deontay Foreman, I think is Dante. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if it's Deontay or just Dante. I don't know. Which he did pretty well last year. I was excited to watch him play. They pulled in Tremaine Edmonds from the Buffalo Bills defense, which is a huge pickup. ex-Packers tight end Robert Tonyan, which I think is going to be a great upgrade and addition to Cole Kmet, who will pull in a bunch of receptions. Tonyan will do the same thing. He's just bigger and more aggressive, which is what I like to see from him. But if you're looking at the whole team, and like I always say, they need time to gel. They need time to play well together. And I think they do a little better. They only had 3 wins last year, so it's not going to be hard to be better this year. But if you look at those wins, I think it was their last 10 games, went on a 10-game losing streak where every opponent put up 25 or more points. That's just insane. You can't let that happen. And like I said, I do think they do better. Not much better, just better enough than Green Bay to get that number 3 spot.
Yeah, this one was hard for me. The 3-2 spot was really hard for me. 1-4 was easy. 3-2, because I like the Chicago team. They say Justin Fields is making great strides and improvement. I'll save for what I had, but yes, I gotta agree with you as well. Chicago dropping down to number 3. I think they're gonna improve, but not enough for any playoff type of run or anything. Dead last in defense last year. You already mentioned the 10-game skid that ultimately sealed their fate. Number 1 rushing team, dead last passing team. So I don't see it improving too much for Chicago. They did have some great picks. They had 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, secured offensive line and defense is what they're going after, which is good because they need to secure that up, but it's not going to turn the tide to let them make any type of playoff run. Or they had 3 wins last year. How much do you see them improving?
I'd say at least by 100%. Give them 6
That's what I'm saying.
wins.
Like, I like this team. I think they're trending in the right direction. Justin Fields, an Ohio State quarterback. We haven't seen an Ohio State quarterback do anything lately. So, I mean, it's a good storyline, but ultimately 5 wins. That's all I'm giving them. So, yeah, still 3rd.
All right, let's move on to the top half, the winning half of these divisions. My number 2 is easy, and you're going to probably laugh at why I put them there. Detroit Lions. They had one of the better offenses to watch last year. They were the best offense for a very long time, up until the end of the year. And I'm a big fan of Dan Campbell. He seems to hold his players accountable, and he doesn't stress about those things that can't be controlled. His nickname, Motor City Dan Campbell, but I see him as Motor City's Mike Tomlin because he's a calm, collected, obviously everybody gets mad every now and again, but he's a calm, collected coach on the sidelines. And he believes in his players. He really does just remind me of Mike Tomlin. And I do see that they did get better on the defensive side of the ball through the draft and with their pickups this offseason. And they have the ability to win some of those close games that they lost last year. Maybe 10, 11 wins, locking up that number 2 spot this season.
Yeah, this was hard for me too, because I wanted to put Detroit into the number 1 spot, but it's their schedule that really throws me off when I start going down and looking. They open up with Kansas City. We all know Seattle's was very, very sneaky last year. And then throughout, they got scattered good teams that they got to face. So ultimately, I think their team is amazing. They would be number 1 in this division if not for their schedule. They also had 6 picks in the first 4 rounds. So they're securing a lot of spots that they need, hoping these rookies are going to play out. They always had Adrian Hutchinson last year, huge defensive rookie. So I think this team in general is trending in an amazing direction. I would not be surprised if they do end up finishing first in their division, but ultimately I think the final remaining team just nudges them a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird saying all those nice, you know, uplifting things about uh, the Lions.
Just
I've
yeah,
never
just to
done it
finish
before in my
second.
life.
But yes, Dan Campbell is hilarious too. I love when he has the mic. What was it? The one year he said something about getting a real lion. Like,
Yeah.
like, come on, dude. I love this guy. I love Dan Campbell and his energy. So,
Yeah, he's just absolutely amazing.
but
The first
number
and final
two,
spot, obviously the Vikings, which both of us do have because we did have the same list pretty much. But this year I got smarter, and I said it when I was introing the video. I'm going to get out in front of myself this year. I always give Kirk Cousins crap, and then he ends up putting up 4,000, 4,200 yards on me. So
yeah,
he always makes me eat my words at the end of the season. I am getting out in front of that this year, and this is where it screws me. I can guarantee it. But I'm going to say, like I said, I do give him a hard time uh, because he's not somebody I really pay attention to a whole lot. But at the end of the season, I look at his stats, and he's up there, top 10, top 5, could be top 5. You know, if he could play exceptionally well in the playoffs. But you do have players like Cousins, Cook, Jay Jettas, obviously, TJ Hawkinson, who came over from Detroit last year. I have to give this team the credit that they deserve. They finished 13-4 last year. I'm going to say
yeah.
they do it again. They're at, if nothing less, a consistent team. They will continue to win this division as long as they have Kirk Cousins anyway.
Yeah, I see them finishing number one. Yes, Kirk Cousins gets a ton of hate for being a future Hall of Famer. I don't care what anyone says. The thing that scares me is Dalvin Cook.
Yes.
He could be a number one back in the league. I don't think the Vikings like leaning on the run game as much as what they had. They fell in the back half of rush last year. Obviously, we know Justin Jefferson's a complete and utter dog. They went and got him some help. Wide receiver with their first round pick, Jordan Addison. So hopefully that takes some heat. Got a good number 1-2 punch. They no longer have Adam Thielen. And the thing that really scares me is Dalvin Cook. Everyone knows after this year, they don't think he's going to be with them. Not to mention he's injured and he's not projected to even open the season starting just because of his injury. So, I mean, there's a little bit of scare there. But yeah, the consistency thing is what gets me. Every year we write off these Vikings. Every year. And every year they make us hate ourselves. So, like you said, we're kind of getting smart. If it's smart, like I said, I would not be surprised if Detroit takes number one and Vikings go fall back to number two just because of the trends. I think Minnesota's on the trend downward. I think they got 1 or 2 more years in them to be in the top in this division. They're trending downward in my eyes. Detroit's trending upward. But at the moment, I got to keep them in how we have them. Minnesota 1, Detroit 2.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if you're watching this and you have an opinion on how these stack up, let us know how the NFC stacks up. You can let us know down in the comments below if you're watching. Let's move on to the AFC North. Our football. He's a Browns fan, obviously. It's not as obvious as me. I have Juju over there. AFC North is such a different ball game.
It's a shit show. That's what it is.
Yeah. But it's what we grew up watching. It's what we're used to. Wouldn't take it any other way.
Okay, I would take it a couple different ways, but
Yeah.
but go ahead, reveal your last. We already know what it is.
Okay. At number 4, I have Pittsburgh.
Whoa!
Yeah, did you see that face he made?
Yeah,
I
I
do.
did not expect that.
Honestly, my Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is why. I think we finished 9-8 at the end of the season, which is good. If you like mediocrity, it's good. It's not a losing season, but you're still finishing 4th, so really it is. They have a bunch of new pieces. Kenny Pickett, it's going to take time for him to get comfortable with this new picket fence that they're building in front of him. It's going to take time for that fence to provide the protection that he is comfortable having. Overall, I do think he has a good season. But it's just that start. The Steelers over the last couple of years haven't started that well, going 0-4, 0-3. I think they do it again, and having a rough start doesn't help you towards the end of the season. It's those early games, those early wins that you want to just pile on as many as you can, and then continue to ride it out throughout the season, obviously, right?
Right.
Again, I see them going 0-3, 0-4 to start this season. And the only thing that I don't have a question in is this defense. Obviously, that rides on one player, with the exception of TJ Watt's health. Because, as we've seen in the past seasons, TJ Watt goes down, this whole defense goes down.
Yeah. So
now, they have picked up a bunch of people in the draft with, to help out the defense, like Joey Porter Jr., and a ton of other defensive players to combat that. But again, it's TJ Watt. It's hard to fill those shoes. So it's the only non-concern I have on this team right now.
Yeah, our NFC North was dead on lock, right step with each other, but right now we're starting off completely different because I don't have Steelers falling number one. Unfortunately, I don't. I just, as much as the Steelers, I don't like their roster. Like you said, you mentioned one of the best defensive players in the game, TJ Watt. It's undeniable. But once he goes down, the defense isn't there anymore. It scares me. But even with all that dysfunction, Ben retiring, you guys had, 3 or 4 quarterbacks in that were just complete garbage, and you guys still were able to squeak out a decent season. So I'm still having hope for Steelers. I don't have them in last. I actually have Baltimore Ravens in last. Wow. I think this team's just insanely dysfunctional. I think Lamar Jackson's completely overrated. I think he missed his calling as a running back because this team is ridiculous. They had Lamar Jackson. He can't stay healthy. They fell to the very back half of the passing yards. Number one, close to the number one rushing team. They weren't quite number one, but they have weapons. They just don't know how to use them. They're dysfunctional as all get out. Their offensive line is trash. Their defensive line is trash. Their secondary is the only bright spot of that team that I see. You went and signed the most overrated wide receiver known to man, which is Odell Beckham Jr. Literally, he's made millions and millions of dollars off of one fucking catch. They did go and get a wide receiver in the first round, Zay Flowers. Do I think that helps? No, because Lamar Jackson sucks at throwing. I cannot stand this Ravens team, and it's not off hate because I've projected them to do really well the past couple years. But now I'm learning that with Lamar Jackson at the helm, they're dysfunctional as all get out. And then we all know the drama they just had with Lamar Jackson throughout the literal whole offseason. That never bodes well for any team when you have that much drama surrounding one star player. So I'm completely out on Baltimore Ravens. They're choke artists as it is. And then I just think they're going to just crumble in on themselves. Last year, that's all their excuses was injuries. Well, injuries isn't an excuse because you have staff members that are supposed to help with that and everything. So I'm not buying in on this Ravens team. I think they're garbage.
Yeah, and you did bring up a few very good points, which we'll get to in a few minutes. My number 3, and I'm shocked at our list already. My number 3 is Cleveland. And this team, look at the roster. They've had a bunch of good weapons for a very long time, and they continue to have good weapons. And you said it, Cleveland is also another team that does not know how to utilize those weapons.
Yep.
Case in point, Nick Chubb. He should be the number 1 running back every single year.
Preach.
However, he is not, at least on paper. And he should be. He should be the one with the most yards, the most carries, the most everything, the most touchdowns, because he's talented enough to do that easily. But for some reason, you take him out when he needs 2 yards to get a first down and keep the drive moving. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you know.
Yep.
But, and I said he should be. He is the best back in this division, obviously. Number 2 in the league. I'm not going to give him the top because, and I'm sure you'll argue this, I don't think he is the best back. If you're going by stats, which is obviously a job that I'm trying to do, is look at stats and look at tape and everything. He's not. He's been beat by Josh Jacobs. Was it last year? Jonathan Taylor. Like, there are people who have outproduced him, not because of the fault of Nick Chubb. Obviously, that's a coaching thing.
It's organizational. Yeah.
So coaching isn't consistent enough. I do think that Deshaun Watson comes in a little different this year. He's got a few new weapons to work with, and I think he worked off a little bit of that rust last year after sitting for multiple years. However, sitting for 2 years is a long time in the eyes of sports. I mean, if you look at Trevor Bauer, he had to sit for a couple years. If you don't know who Trevor Bauer is, he's an old Indians pitcher, Guardians pitcher. Had some stuff off the field, had to sit, and now he plays over in Taiwan or Japan, over in China somewhere. Just got demoted to the bench over in the China League or whatever it is. I don't follow it. But what I'm saying is, as a sports player, 2 years is an eternity. The weapons will help out in Deshaun Watson's case. I just don't know if it'll be enough for them to do as well as Cleveland's been hoping for, since 2009 when they last made playoffs.
Yeah.
Or, no, it was a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, we lost to the Chiefs.
KC, yeah. You're right. But yeah, I do see them edging out Pittsburgh for that number 4 spot this year, though.
Wow. Okay. That's the only thing we're going to agree on. Well, okay. I think we're going to agree on 2 different teams, but yeah, Cleveland being in number 3, they're like you mentioned, their roster's really good. And we've had really good rosters for the past couple of years. We just can't do anything with them. The one time we did do something with them, we had Baker Mayfield. He's no longer here. We all know the Baker Mayfield drama. Deshaun Watson, he knocked off some of the rust. As far as I'm concerned, it's not enough to prove he's deserved that type of money we gave him. Nick Chubb, you already mentioned, arguably one of the best back in the league. I think it's the fault of the organization and everything that we just don't want to rely on the run like certain other teams, like the Raiders and Tennessee.
A few years ago, yeah.
Yes. Wide receiver wise, I don't think we have a good core like we did the past couple years. I know we had Odell, insanely overrated, but on paper for the past couple years, Browns have had an amazing team and we're still dysfunctional with it. So I don't think it's going to, organization hasn't changed. So this isn't going to change too much. One of the best offensive lines in the league. We have a great defensive line in my eyes. I think our secondary is kind of hit for Cleveland, but ultimately it's just going to come down to execution. Just execute your damn plays. Go out there, do what you're supposed to do. And as far as that's concerned, I think we have the worst coach in the division. I like Stefanski, but everyone else is better. Harbaugh, Zach Taylor and Tomlin.
Yeah.
That's a great group of coaches. And I think I like Stefanski, but I do think he falls in 4th under coaches in this division. And I think that's it's almost detrimental. So many QB and coach swaps. I think it's just ingrained in the Cleveland culture that we're not the ones. You know what I mean? As much as I would love to be the ones, we're not. So right now I'm keeping them at 3rd. I do think we're going to edge Ravens still, just because I think they're imploding.
So Cleveland, yeah, both of us have Cleveland at 3 there. This number 2 spot, this is where I put Baltimore. As much dysfunction as they have or as they are, they have a pretty decent team. And obviously everybody's seen it, everybody's figuring it out. It's not the receivers that you have. It's worrying about Lamar being able to utilize those receivers. Because if he can get you thinking, yes, I can throw 10, 15-yard passes, he's going to use his legs to get out in front of you. It's that kind of versatility, which he is capable of doing, that makes this team scary. And they do have other good weapons. They have good backfield weapons in Dobbins and the Gus Bus when they're healthy.
Yes.
They have the second best tight end in the league in Mark Andrews. And OBJ, as much as everybody hates him, he will be a playmaker for about 6 or 8 games.
He will catch 3 good passes all year. Yeah. No more, no less, I guarantee.
And when I was writing this, I kept saying playmaker. He will be a better distraction than anything.
Yes, yes.
Which is what I think they're going to play on this year. Get that extra defender running away from the quarterback with the distraction in OBJ. That way, Lamar Jackson, if he has to, can leak out, look at his first read, boom. If it ain't there, go. Which is what this Ravens team was made for.
My problem with the Ravens is, like, look at OBJ and how he's made his living. It's mediocre quarterbacks just chucking him the ball deep. You know what I mean? Like, send a Hail Mary out there. I don't think, if you're comparing Eli, Baker, and who else did Odell have throwing to him? Tom Brady for a second, right?
I'm trying to think of where
was he played. On the Bucks for a little bit?
He played for the Rams. It was
the Rams. Okay.
Stafford.
Yes. Okay. But all those quarterbacks can throw better than Lamar. Lamar cannot throw the ball past 15 yards. And that's where it comes into where it doesn't matter who you have on this roster. Coach, every single year, Lamar has taken a step backwards. One, because coaches are game planning to stop him. It's going to happen. The more tape you have out there of yourself, coaches can watch more tape and learn more stuff about you. If you're not coming up with new things to beat people, like Patrick Mahomes does, he's always pulling something crazy out of his ass. That's not Lamar. I just don't think you could have Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins on the Ravens, and I still think they fall to one of the least throwing teams in the league, just because they don't have any faith in Lamar.
Oh, I completely agree. My other option, or not option, my other argument was, and you mentioned it before, Harbaugh. He knows how to win in this division. That's the only other thing I had to even try to make something stick. But let's move on to the number 1 spot in the AFC North.
Oh, I didn't give my number 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. You're gonna like this one because I have Pittsburgh Steelers at number 3. I had number 2. Sorry.
Yeah, your number 3 being number 2. Yeah.
Right. But like I've already mentioned, I love Tomlin as much as I don't want to. I like Tomlin. He's done great with nothing. They've had the steel curtain for how long? Their defense, they've been riding on their defense for a while now.
For a long time, yeah.
Yes, and I don't think it's going anywhere. The defense is scary. I'm just banking on TJ Watt really like putting together a 14-game season this year. Like he's gonna try his best. He's had the big injury last year. I think he's gonna realize, like, all right, let's focus on the health. Let's not get injured, which I know a lot of injuries there's no avoiding some of these injuries. You know what I mean?
He's just the type of player that gets out there. He plays hard every single snap.
Exactly.
Which is why he basically ripped his chest muscle off last year.
Yeah, he tore a pec, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It was either that or a bicep, one of the two.
You already mentioned Joey Porter. If he turns out to be a good corner for you, Steelers somehow love utilizing good corners. And if they get a good shutdown corner or safety, it's over for a lot of number one receivers in the league.
Especially sitting next to Minka.
Yeah, exactly. Like your guys' defense is incredible for how long it's been. It doesn't seem like you guys lose a big piece and you guys come back with a piece that's on par or even better. You guys will not take hits on defense ever. I hate it, but it is what it is. Steelers organization, I believe, is one of the best in the league, and they know how to work with what they got. And I think they're just going to surprise a lot of people. I think they have the easiest schedule out of everyone in the AFC North. And I think they're just going to take advantage of that and really like the first 5 games or so, you guys got 49ers, Browns, Raiders, Texans, Ravens, Rams. I think you guys lose 1 game within the first 5 games. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Maybe that's the 49ers, but we don't know how the 49ers are going to play out this year either, too. So there's a lot of questions, obviously, but I do believe that Steelers just have the easiest schedule. And Steelers have always been known when they get breaks like this, they take advantage. So that was my number 2. Let's go on to number 1. We all knew this was coming. We all knew this team was still.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I have.
If they drop in any, that's bad.
That's exactly what I have written down. You know, if you look at Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they have basically made a statement saying, we are the best in this division, at least for now.
Yeah.
And we're not letting up until, you know, you come take it from us, which is fine. They are the most well put together team in this division. So it's easy for me to say this is how they're going to finish out. You have Burrow, obviously the best quarterback in the AFC North and a top quarterback in the entire league. You have one of the better receiving corps. And Mixon, who is a quiet, I would say, the second best running back in this division, top 5, maybe just out of the top 5 in the league. He is just a quiet workhorse for the Bengals, and he knows what he has to do to win, essentially. And I think they're going to obviously win this year and the next until, you know, a team like the Steelers or the Ravens can finally get their final pieces, maybe a little longer with the Ravens, put together and take over that other spot. Or that one spot, I should say.
Okay. I want to echo everything essentially, but the only thing I have to disagree with you on is Joe Mixon. I think he's overrated, and I think it's just because of all the options they have at wide receiver. They can put a mediocre back there to get 1,000 yards. You know what I mean? I don't think if we're lining up running backs within this division, I think Nick Chubb's better. I think J.K. Dobbins is better. And I think, what's the Steelers running back again?
Najee.
Yes, Najee Harris. I think Najee can progress better. I think he would be a better if his offensive line was better. But I've never been sold on Joe Mixon. They're all
he's like the Kirk Cousins of running backs for me. I always give him a hard time, but he always exceeds my expectations at the end of every year.
And last I knew, he was still fighting menacing charges as
That's
well.
what I was just thinking about,
Yeah,
too. I'm not entirely sure about that yet.
He's dysfunctional off the field, and that's my problem with him. Like, you never know if this dude's even going to be behind bars. So we all know about their trio wide receivers. That's only a matter of time before they have to break those people up. They're not keeping all of them. Tight end, Irv Smith and Drew Sample, I think they're overrated. I think they get their production based off everyone else is scary. You know what I mean? Their offensive line is trash, but it's slowly getting better. They're focusing on it. Their defense was sketchy as hell in the beginning of the season, but their defense did really pick up at the end of the year last year, shutting people down. And that's exactly what they did. They realized that their defense was their weakest point. So they went out there and in the first 3 picks, they took nothing but defense. So I think they secured some holes, and I think their weakest point on the team is their running back. but they have Joe Mixon. They have Joe Burrow. So like you don't even need a running back at that point. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, Bengals number one until they get dethroned. This is where I'm sitting. As much as I hate saying it, I hate the Bengals. I hate Bengals fans. Like they're obnoxious as hell. All get out, even when they were losing consistently. And now that they have an actual good team, it's even worse.
So there you have it. Nothing really matters except that number one spot, because Ricky Bobby said it best. If you ain't first, you're last. That's the mentality of AFC North football.
Yeah. Also, we also said best. If you don't chew Big Red, then fuck you.
But if you agree with us, let us know down in the comments. If you have a different take, let me know where you think these both AFC and NFC divisions are gonna kind of fall out to. Where do you think everybody's gonna stand? Make sure you're letting us know down in the comments. I appreciate you watching. That was the North. We will be doing one of the other divisions in another video. Make sure you're checking that out.